I have a saying, which is make the apps work for you, don't work around the apps. And so that puts the ownership into feeling empowered when you're using the apps versus, oh no, I need to be on all the time to optimize the algorithm or to make sure I'm messaging all these people. It's like, no, a lot of times my clients are working, right? Like you're not going to be sitting home all day on an app.
Do dating apps really suck? That's what my guest, Carla Romo, is going to be addressing today. We're going to talk about why people burn out on the apps. Do the dating apps really suck? And how does somebody make the apps work for them? Welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I have written two books. The first is Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this book is for you if you've ever played small to make other people comfortable, if you've ever stayed quiet when you had something important to say, or you stayed in a bad relationship or job too long because you didn't think you could do better. The second book is called Choice Points in Dating, and I wrote this to empower people to make healthier choices in their love lives. You will find so much in this book. It really is a handbook for dating, and it covers everything from mindset to how to choose a partner, how to decide what your must-haves and deal breakers are, how to date online, offline, how to know when to stay, when to go, and how to go on your last first date. Both of them are available on Amazon for Kindle or paperback, and Choice Points is now available as an audiobook on Audible. This week's tip on becoming a woman of value is step number 17. Let go of toxic people. There's so many people in our lives who should not be there. And the more we hang on to them, the more we live a life that's not truly authentic to us. And so if you have toxic people in your life, especially if they're friends or you have coworkers who constantly are driving you crazy, let it go. Like, do not engage. And sometimes it's good to actually cut all ties if you can, but if you can't, don't give any emotional energy to people who are toxic to you. Before I bring Carla on, I wanted to invite you to join my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date. If you're not yet a member, you should be, and you should head over there right after you listen to this, because this is, I have to say, one of the best groups out there. And I'm saying this modestly because I have amazing monitors who really moderate comments with me, and they post every day. I post, I do videos live in the group. You're the first to know about courses, webinars, anything that I'm doing when you're there. And it's a positive place for support, as opposed to so many of the groups that are out there that are just so negative. So join us at Your Last First Date. And now for my guest, Carla Romo. She's an international certified dating and relationship coach, and she's helped close to 1,000 women and men push through their BS, which she calls blind sides, so they can thrive in dating, get over breakups, and make relationships everlasting. She is the author of Contagious Love, and she's also a speaker and former podcast co-host. Carla, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
We found out that we have a lot in common, that we both offer similar free gifts. We both
Yep.
have the color teal on our wall in the living room.
And I also color coordinate the bookshelf in my living room too.
See,
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about apps and whether they really suck. And I actually would love to talk to you about AI and apps, if you have an opinion about that before we get into the app sucking or not sucking content.
So AI and apps, I really am so against people using AI to create anything with their apps because it takes away the human touch. Like there really is something to be said about the human connection. And if you use AI for your apps, which lots of people do, okay, but I really want you to think about this here. If you're using AI and then you're on a dating app, you're like so many layers removed from human connection at that point.
I do believe in AI assist on apps. So here's how I see it.
Okay.
For people who really struggle writing about themselves, for example. So if you put a bullet list of things about you that are kind of quirky and unique, and you throw it into AI and say, write a paragraph of 100 characters or less on the with using these bullet points, and then you go in and edit it. You don't just use it straight out. You can tell. I mean, I have come across profiles that are just like, and then we hence walked through the forest of my dreams. And you're like, nobody talks like that.
Nope. Nope. And okay, I agree with the assist, but if you're just using like write me an amazing dating profile, go. Or like write me the end, like, if you're on a dating app with prompts, it's like write, the prompt response to this, like the best one. That's not authentic. Like that's not really you. But if you, like you said, you put in some characteristics, you're like, I love pizza, write a really good prompt that would have something with pizza. It's like, okay, that can definitely help.
Yeah. So just to don't let the robots take over your life, I guess.
Exactly. You want to meet a human. We're not, what was that movie, Her? Was that the
Oh,
movie
yeah, yeah,
where,
yeah.
yeah, we're not going to be in relationships with robots.
At least not yet. Hopefully not in my lifetime.
But
Right.
agreed.
Because I'm sure there are AI dating coaches out there as well, but we are not those people.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, so let's get into dating apps. People hate them, people love them. What is your opinion, and do they really suck?
I have a saying, which is make the apps work for you. Don't work around the apps. And so that puts the ownership into feeling empowered when you're using the apps versus, oh no, I need to be on all the time to optimize the algorithm or to make sure I'm messaging all these people. It's like, no, a lot of times my clients are working, right? Like you're not going to be sitting home all day on an app whenever, and they've got busy lives. And so I always say, like, make a schedule for yourself if you like something that's more structured. It gives you more freedom as well when you make a schedule. And if the schedule's not working, then it's really great information to be able to take a step back and say, okay, what do I need to do to actually make this work for me?
Yeah. So a lot of people feel like everything controls them. It's that people say, I don't have a profile on social media because then everybody will contact me or I'll be on it all day. Like you actually have control over those things. And also who
Yes.
follows you and who you follow. And I don't think people realize how much control we have and that these are actually really valuable tools. Dating apps are valuable tools. We don't always meet people in real life. And so it's a great way to enhance your dating life if you know how to control it. So let's first take a step back and talk about why people do burn out. We talked about, the time suck, but what else? What other reasons?
They're emotional. So if you don't look at it as an emotional process, then you are emotionally going to burn out, right? And the need of feeling like okay, I'm going to this is vulnerable, I'm going to do it, right? So you get on an app. And most people are not excited to get on apps. I will say my clients have lots of success on apps. I had success meeting my boyfriend on a dating app. I was excited because as a coach, I was like, oh, I'm going to use the method that I use with my clients and it works. But most people are not thinking that way, right? Like most people hire us as dating coaches to be able to help them through this process because it's a sticky one and it can feel very confusing. You can feel lonely, you can feel scared. And so if you're coming at dating apps with this idea of, a scarcity mentality, like I don't think I'm ever going to meet somebody, but I'll do the apps. And that is your only source of trying to meet someone, you are emotionally going to burn out because you're going to either, try to go on a date or somebody's not going to message you back. You're going to second guess yourself on how to move things forward, who to unmatch with, who not to, right? Like there's so many decisions to be made that you're just going to get fatigued and be like, I'm done. Or you're going to go on so many dates and then be like, I'm exhausted. Or you're going to meet somebody and have a situationship for 2 months and then be like, that was from the app. This sucks. I'm meant to be alone and I'm deleting the apps forever, only to repeat the cycle of getting back on the apps again.
Yeah, there's a lot of burnout, and there's a lot of, I would say, the mindset that you brought up, the scarcity mindset, as opposed to the abundance mindset. I think that so many people just see this limited amount of people, or limited amount of matches, and I've gone through every match. Something I have done is to actually remove matches because I don't want to see them come up again and again.
Yep.
And I've met many wonderful people using dating sites and dating apps after my divorce. And um, I have found, though, and I'm 67, almost 68. So in my age group, it's changed. It's a little different. And I am finding the pickings have gotten slimmer. And I've seen many clients who feel the same way. Now, I'm just not interested in dating people who I don't feel a connection with. So I'm not going to keep contacting people who are giving me little breadcrumbs of attention,
Yeah.
which is so common. It's such a flaky, I mean, that's what I see as a big issue. It's very flaky. It's very like you think you're having a great conversation, and all of a sudden the person just stops talking to you or ghosts you. And so, what do you suggest for people who keep having those kinds of experiences?
So I myself had experiences like that. And I even went on dates and I would think, oh, this is great. And like, the guy would say, yeah, let's have a second date. Awesome. I'd get a text, but there was like no follow up. And I was like, man, like, it's like you think it's going somewhere. Or even like you said, you're having conversations with somebody on the app and you're like, this is great. And then you're just like, don't, it goes nowhere or they disappear or something happens. And I really would say is to keep going. And I know that that sounds very like, oh, well, easier said than done. But what I mean by that is not just keep going and push on, but acknowledge your feelings. So learn tools to cope with the disappointment, ways to make sure you have hobbies and interests, that you're not letting the apps consume you or consume what you're doing. So making sure that you're connecting with community or friends or family, finding ways, to get more interests and putting yourself out there in different ways that are not just streamlined through the apps. So what I would do is I would have a moment of that like okay, like and it sucks because your feelings get hurt. I mean, we're human beings, right? It doesn't matter if we're professionals or not in this space. Like we're human, and the dips, they suck, and there's no denying that. But I will say that I was like, okay, no, you're gonna keep going, because I go back to my why. Well, I was on the dating apps because I wanted to meet a partner who was emotionally available, and I knew I was deserving of that and that I wanted that type of relationship and companionship. So, really connecting back into your why and not getting lost in other people's behaviors of what you can control or can't control, that's a really good way to kind of reframe some of it.
Yeah, it's a good reframe. I think that, first of all, to keep going, because it really just takes one, that one connection is all it takes.
Yes. Yes.
And people are like, you don't need 85 fantastic matches.
No.
And also to fill your life with other things. That is such important advice. I see so many people who have small lives and they are not living their lives. They're waiting for the right person to come into their lives. I mean, I've dated people like that and I immediately stopped dating them
Yeah.
because I don't want to date someone whose whole life is so small that I become everything for them. I remember years ago, this one man said, yeah, it's really hard after divorce. You lose all your friends. And then I'm looking for a partner to become my everything. And I'm like, what? That's a you thing.
100%. Yeah. I always say that the relationship, like your life is the Sunday. And if you're lactose intolerant, we can do plant-based Sundays here. But, you got your ice cream, you have your hot fudge, you got your nuts, you got the sprinkles, the whipped cream, whatever you want to put on it, right? The relationship is the cherry. Like that is it. Like the relationship is the cherry on top of your Sunday. You have a full life. It's awesome. It's yummy. It's great. And the cherry is nice, but it's not necessary. And so what you're looking for is somebody to add to your life, not become the Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to look for the entire Sunday. I remember a woman who used to tell her dates, I I'm looking for, or something like I there's something in the ingredients of a cake. Like I have all the ingredients, I have the cake. I don't really need anything or just the icing on the cake or something. And
Ooh.
I think men were like, you don't really need me. So I think you got to be careful about how you convey that because I think that is a common issue for a lot of people. Are like, yeah, my life is totally set. You know, yes, we are looking for someone who adds value to our lives and is the cherry on top if you like cherries and they're not poisonous, like the old maraschino disgusting cherries.
Yeah.
But yes, we are looking for somebody who adds value. They are not the whole Sunday.
Yes. And I would say too, if there's that like hyper independence of, oh, I don't need anyone at all. My life is so great. Why do I need to date? I would actually say that a lot of times what I find with clients, and I don't know how you feel about this, but if you're in that hyper independence, you're more into that avoidant attachment, or you are, fearing intimacy in some kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. So check yourself before
Yeah,
you wreck yourself, right?
exactly.
It definitely is often a guard. And that's what my whole TED talk is about, how I guarded myself and it
Hmm.
was hard to get in. And I thought, I'm tough. I'm really tough. And then we're like,
Yeah,
I'm not going to work that hard to figure out how to get through all these layers.
right.
And so that was a big awakening for me of, well, there's another way to look at heartbreak and it's not about becoming harder. It's about finding the information within and then becoming softer on the outside.
Hmm.
So let's talk about some other things people can do if they want to succeed on the apps.
Yeah, I talk a lot about this one in my dating app guide, Swipe Match Spark, the ultimate dating app guide, where when you're creating the prompts, this is a big one, right? Because a lot of times people think, oh, nobody reads the profiles. Well, if nobody's reading your profile, you probably don't want to match with that person. You want somebody who is taking a look at your profile. And maybe the first go around, you're kind of, and this is a tip here, you don't have to read every single little thing, but maybe find the highlights. So, if you're looking for somebody who wants, a long-term relationship or life partner, you're going through and swiping on only people that have that, right? As their, little description. But when it comes to the prompts, I'm really big on getting descriptive and showing off your personality. Where a lot of times we think, oh, like, craziest, just going to use a fun little prompt here that I see a lot of people use. So it's like, craziest thing I ever did, order pineapple on pizza. All right, there is something about people ordering pineapple on pizza. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's just something there about people putting that. And it's like, okay, if that's the craziest thing you've ever done, fine. But maybe like dig a little bit deeper, right? And it doesn't have to actually be anything, actually crazy. It can be how you perceive the word crazy, how you want to define crazy. So for a prompt of craziest thing I've ever done, instead of putting pineapple on pizza, you could put something like, quit my job at 45 and took the leap to, go into a whole new career. Like that to me, I'm like, oh, you're showing more than just a food thing, right? Pineapple and pizza. What you're showing is that you take risks, that you're resilient, that you're self confident, that you grow, right? That you don't settle for things when you're not, happy, that you're a go getter. I mean, there's so much within just that little sentence that somebody could get from a prompt. So always go deeper into the meaning behind what you're writing versus just trying to answer something silly.
Yeah, that's a great one. So as you're talking, I'm thinking one of the craziest things I ever did was go cross country with a new boyfriend. I wouldn't write this part, but I had just met him and he wanted to travel across the country and camp out at all the national parks. And it was such an amazing thing to do, just spontaneously go on this trip, get to see the United States and Canada. And that, again, that shows my sense of adventure. It shows
Yep.
my love of nature. It shows the fact that I used to camp out. I don't do it anymore, but, that I could glamp now, but not camp. But yeah, I think that anything that's going to get somebody to talk, pineapple on pizza is such a common thing that people write on apps. And you could turn somebody completely off by writing that. Like, I would never date you because you put pineapple. Come on, this is just a food choice. This isn't a life
Yes.
choice.
Yes.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last first date to learn more and claim this offer. What other tips do you have?
So when you're picking out profile pictures, look at them as like a story, right? Like you're telling a story about yourself. So use a variety of different pictures. You don't want to just use, well, no mirror selfies, okay? Unless there's like one that's like you're showing off a cool outfit and it's like some kind of like artistic vibe to it. But I'm going to tell you, most people are not going to be there with their mirror selfies, right? So no mirror selfies, but showing your personality or showing off some kind of hobby. So being able to kind of tell the story about who you are is going to be important. I'm also really against putting in pictures with groups of people. That to me, I'm like, nope. I don't care if you love your daughter. I don't care if you have the best friends in the world. Like, this is just for you. Like, this is your profile, and you want to highlight all of those things. So I'm
Yeah,
really particular about those group photos being a no.
I totally agree with you. It's like, where's Waldo? First of all, we don't know these people, and I don't know which one's you. I mean, there was one guy that I dated that said, "I'm the one in the middle," So if just for one picture, but it was
Fair.
his family, and it was sweet, and but the other ones were him, and they were great pictures. But I love when a picture tells a story because then you can write something to that person. You can comment on where they were. I also hate the ones, by the way, just on the same topic, where the person's so far away that all you see is the scenery.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was looking yesterday, I was going online with a client, and the guy had a lot of skiing pictures. So, first of all, he's got the ski mask on. He's like a little peanut on this beautiful mountain. And I'm like, I can't see him. What is the purpose of that picture?
Yeah. Yes, the scenery photos. Ditch the scenery photos.
Yes.
I had one. I had lived in Mexico for a couple weeks, fall of 2022. And so I love hiking. And I had one of me on top of this like little mountain. And, the scenery was there, but you could see me. Like it was a close up. So if you're going to do scenery, that's okay. But just make sure that you're not the peanut in the photo and that somebody can see your face.
Yes. So this is great. So writing dating app prompts, get descriptive, show off your personality, choose profile pictures that tell a story. What else you got?
Be careful of the red flags. That is a big one. I say this all the time to clients: follow your damn gut. It does not lie. So if something feels off or too good to be true, follow it. Because a lot, I was just on a call with a client right now, and she's 52. And, she was telling me that she got scammed by this guy who, she was a widow and she had gotten on the app. So she was vulnerable. And this guy just like took money from her. And she said, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I should have known better." And I said, "No, like, somebody took advantage of you." So there can be a lot of shame when we fall into the red flags or we don't see something that's, "Oh, I should have known better," or "silly me," like, or, "I'm never going on these, dating apps again." And then we want to go into hiding because we're like, something's wrong with me. This is my fault. But, yes, there's red flags, and follow them so that can hopefully prevent yourself from getting into these situations. But also, sometimes people are just amazing mass manipulators, and this is what they do for a living. But I reminded her that you did get out of it. Like, she did end things with him, and she moved forward. So no matter what stage you're in, when you realize something is off, it's okay to walk away. And I think that's, an important reminder. You're not a failure. It's not, it's not because of the apps. Like, you can meet people in real life. I mean, I've met somebody in real life who is, I don't like to use the narcissist word, but at the time, years ago, it's like 10 years ago, my therapist was like, I can't diagnose him, but he sounds like a narcissist, right? Like, and that was meeting somebody in person. So
Mhm.
it's not the app's fault. It's it's just the way people are, unfortunately, and just being mindful to protect yourself against some of those red flags.
Yeah, I always think about it like we're walking into a giant mall, and not everybody in that mall is going to be dateable. Not everybody in that mall is going to be a healthy human. And we somehow expect that if people have a profile up and they look really good, that they're going to be really good. And so we have to keep skepticism alive. And also there are some signs. So you said if it looks too good to be true. So those
Yep.
pictures that look like a model,
Yes.
what are some other signs that are red flags that people might miss actually?
Yep. Can we get to texting? Sorry, I'm so bad with these apps. So some people really are bad with the apps and they want to move to texting, but I'm actually really big on staying on the app until after your first date and then exchanging numbers. It just keeps you safe in the sense that you're not exchanging your personal information with anybody at this point. Especially if somebody says, "Can we move to WhatsApp?" Big red flag. And you're in the US based. Because I know other countries, a lot of their communication is through WhatsApp. But if you're US based and they're asking to use WhatsApp, like I would just unmatch and move forward. Um, the other thing too is that they're writing things that almost feel like a love novel. It's almost like they get you and wow, this person's just so deep and so, there's just so much like love in this and like wow, like fantasy, like run. That's a really big one that I would say. And then another one as well is, if somebody, this might not feel like a red flag, but it is a red flag because if you're intentionally dating and you want a relationship, you want somebody who is going to consistently message you and then move it to an in-person date. I can tell you that, I had a client a couple weeks ago who was messaging this guy. Things were going really well. And then it started just being like days. And then days became over a week. And then she emailed me and was like, Carla, I don't know about this guy. Like, we've been messaging a lot. He hasn't asked me out, but he's like really friendly. Like, is this normal? And I said, well, some people are in the apps just to fill lonely space and never have intentions to actually meet. So I said, why don't you just back off? And I'm big also on women. Like, I have no problem with women if they feel comfortable with this. Everybody's different to ask somebody out for, coffee or something, as long as the other person also does the work to plan. So you're not just doing it all. But, I told her back off, don't ask him out and just see like, does he eventually ask you out or does he just keep trying to talk and talk and talk? And so she backed off and he didn't ask her out. He just kind of talked a little bit. She didn't really answer. And then he just never said anything again. So sometimes you back off and somebody's like, oh, do you want to get together? And they realize, oh, we should probably get together at this point. But sometimes people just want to be on the apps and they don't want anything serious.
Yeah. And I think it is important to say, hey, I'm on the apps to find dates and not a pen pal. And if you're
Absolutely.
interested, let's meet as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe in meeting or just moving things forward pretty quickly because you don't want to build a false sense of who a person is. I've experienced that early on when I started dating after my divorce, and it was so awful. Like I
Yeah.
really built a whole relationship with somebody, and the in person was just intolerable. Like I really couldn't even
Yeah.
be in the same space with him. It was so
Yeah.
weird.
Right.
But yeah, it happens. We build a fantasy. And so
Mhm.
I have a client who's actually getting together with somebody for the first time today, and they had a great connection. I can't wait to hear how it is in person because his texting was fantastic. He was empathic. He commented on things. He asked questions. I mean, he was obviously connected and listening and has good social skills, which is not so common. And um, but yeah, I think that people give too many second chances, too many benefits of the doubt. And
Yes.
I'm curious why you recommend staying on the app until after the first date. You said for safety reasons. What could happen that would make it unsafe?
So somebody can easily take your phone number and then look you up. So they can find your address, they can find your first and last name, they can find out where you live. They can find out all your social media once they plug it into the search bar on Facebook. And they can find out a lot of information about you. So I'm really big on just holding off on doing that. And just, if somebody says, hey, can we move, do you mind? Here's my number if you feel comfortable. And it's okay to have just a simple boundary and just say, hey, I feel more comfortable, staying on the apps until we meet in person. And if they say, oh, no worries at all, totally get that and respect it, green flag. If they give any type of pushback or pressure or snarky passive aggressive comment, red flag.
Mm-hmm. And especially for women, and I want to mention this, safety is key. And,
Yes.
I was just talking to my son about this, that we were talking about how women, when they're asked a question and they're uncomfortable, they'll still often answer the question. And I talk a lot about this with clients, like you don't have to answer any question that makes you uncomfortable, and you can have an answer for that that is prepared. But men don't do it as commonly. They will ask a question back, like, why are you asking me that? What's important about that? And so just knowing that you don't have to do anything that doesn't make you feel safe. And I think that's just so important. And my son was saying that men are traditionally bigger than women. And women need to make sure they protect themselves, and even if a woman is bigger than the man, there is still something very hardwired in us about safety.
Yes. And I would even say cultural norms of what is acceptable and unacceptable. And, it's like I was coming home from intramural kickball last night and my friends were like, hey, text us when you get home. Right. Because as a woman, you're thinking about that. As a guy, it's like, cool, see you next week. Right. Like there's just a difference, even simple things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So stay safe. That's the
Yep.
bottom line.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, Carla, what are your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date?
Well, if you are wanting to go on your last first date from a dating app, what I suggest, and it's like my proven method, I used it myself, my clients use it, is before, you agree to going out with someone. So say they say, "Hey, you want to go to coffee?" Or you're doing the asking of like, "You want to go to coffee?" You ask, curious what you're looking for, since everyone's on the apps for different reasons. And depending on their answer, it will guide you whether you should go on that date or not. And hopefully they say, oh, I'm looking for something serious, a long term committed relationship. What about you? And then you can share, great, I'm looking for the exact same thing. Let's plan coffee and go from there.
I love that. I was recently talking to my daughter about this. She's 29, and I keep telling her this, like, find out if you're on the same page, because she dated so many people who were like, yeah, casual dating. And she thinks that somehow they're going to change their mind when they date her. And I think she also, it took her a long time to admit that she really wants a relationship. And so she went out with this guy, and on the first date, he said, I'm looking for a girlfriend. What are you looking for? And she was like, oh my God, I've never had anybody ask me that before. And she calls me up. She goes, Mom, it's a unicorn. Like, amazing. And I'm like, it's not a unicorn. And just because he said he wants a girlfriend doesn't mean he wants you to be his girlfriend. And actually, his behavior did not show girlfriend type of behavior,
There you
boyfriend
go.
behavior.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing to pay attention to. Just because somebody says, I'm looking for serious, doesn't
Yes.
mean they really are.
100%. And then that's why, the bottom line, you say you're looking for something. So it's like, okay, we're going to go on the date. Then from there, talk to them about it. Like, what does a relationship look like to them? And then start to kind of get that information.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get that vision. One of my favorite questions is, what's your vision for how a relationship would fit into your life? Because
Mm,
some people will say, oh, I'm just so busy. I'm busy, busy, busy. I've got a lot of the busy. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're too busy
mm.
to date me anyway.
Yep.
You might be
Yep.
able to date some
Absolutely.
other people
Somebody
who,
else who's busy. Yeah.
yeah, or someone who doesn't care that you time slotted them into their life.
Right.
So well, Carol, this has been really informative, and I'm sure that there will be people here who will be like, I'm getting back on the apps. Do you have any recommended apps that you like best?
So I don't specifically recommend any, type of app because I think apps are different, for everybody and different interests. But I really suggest do your research. So see which ones are the most popular. Get on Reddit threads. I know that sounds a little funny, but see what people are talking about with the different apps and, what they like and don't like about the apps. Ask friends if they've met through the apps, which apps they were on, and kind of do your research that way before joining.
Yeah, there is no one size fits all.
Nope.
And people do find love on every app every day.
Yes.
So good advice. Carol, how can people find you?
Yes. So you can go to my website, which is carlaromo.com. And I've got my ultimate dating app guide, Swipe Match Spark, if you're interested in kickstarting your dating app journey. And there's a bonus on there too, which is really cool. And that is the in real life date. So it's not just about the apps, it's about prepping yourself to really going after like what you're looking for, all the way through the messaging prompts, profiles, moving messages to in person, and then the bonus, which is the in person dating. And then you can find me on Instagram at I am Carla Romo, or TikTok as I am Carla Romo as well.
Awesome. And I think I called you Carol by mistake. So I
That's all right.
appreciate.
It's my grandma's name, so I'm totally fine
Ah,
with that. And that's who I was named
okay.
after. So you got it. It's all
I've
good.
had podcasts where people call me the wrong name the entire time. And I'm like,
Oh
wait,
my
hello, different name.
God.
Anyway, Carla, this has just been wonderful. And I really appreciate you. I love the down to earth advice that you have. It makes sense. And hopefully it'll help people to just take all the negativity out of dating apps because they don't suck. We can unsuck them. And go check out Carla's free gift, and there'll be links to all of this in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
And thank you everyone for listening. If you love our show, please give us a high rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.